Hello, everybody. My name is Joel Filderman, and welcome to the Dog Trainers Connection. I am not a dog trainer, but these other people you see here are. We get together, we discuss a topic, come up with some thoughts, some ideas, sometimes some answers, but we always have an interesting discussion. Before we get to today's topic, we have a new dog trainer with us today, and that is Felix Rosado. Felix is from Dog Training Beyond LLC, right across the river from us. He's in Poughkeepsie. We're in New Paltz, New York. Welcome to the forum, Felix.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Looking forward to having some fun today.
All right, let's get to it. So, Steve, the topic today is yours. So why don't you introduce the topic and we'll take it from there.
Okay. Well, I came up with this. Basically, I was told by one of my clients that in this way, I know that you're used to running the session, but I'd like to run the meeting if you don't mind. And I was like, ooh, it's like, it made me think, I guess that's what happens, when I get with a client, I just start going, right? I think that there might be some foundation. I get the history, what am I doing here? What's going on? I'm getting my history, and then I'm ready to go. It's not like chances are I've heard this issue before in my career, so I go right for like foundation type exercises and things like that. And, before we get going, let's like get on a certain plane here, let's get on the same page. So I guess that's my approach, is that I've been kind of forward in this thing, client after client, year after year, until I just run into somebody who says, apparently you're used to running these meetings, right? But if you don't mind, I have specific problems, questions, and I'm thinking to myself, what am I going to argue with this person? No, of course not, but I felt like I could, but I couldn't, because what am I going to say? Well, I'm pretty sure I've heard this, whatever it is. I'm pretty sure I've been around the block with this. You can't go there. They have concerns, and it's personal. So I said, I apologize. Please go. But it was a unique moment for me in all these years. Nobody ever said that to me. It's like, hey, I know you're kind of used to running these sessions, but if you don't mind. And I believe the woman was a mental health professional, if I recall correctly. And I guess she's used to listening a lot, rather than speaking up front, because most of those folks do behave that way. They sit quietly and let you talk. And me, I was just chatting away, she shut me down. And so it made me wonder, is it just me? Do you guys sit back and listen before you start to like try to offer up help? Or do you go straight for I kind of have an idea of what's going on, and even if I'm not there, this was a Zoom session that this occurred. So I'm not in the room, but I'm pretty sure that if I was, it wouldn't have been any different. I would have started to go, and she probably would have stopped me. Sit back and relax kind of thing. Just listen.
I wonder about that, Steve. I wonder if you had been there, if it would have been different. I know that things on Zoom tend to be different now, and there is different etiquette now, and there's different ways people do things and maybe she was feeling pressure because it's almost more of an intimacy when you're on Zoom right now. So I don't know, but I'm curious to hear what you're thinking, trainers. I'm curious to hear how you handle the situation and if you've come up on this situation. Anybody want to start?
I guess I'll go.
Go right ahead, Felix.
Well, as far as like when people come to me, they're obviously here for a reason, right? They're looking for help. They're vulnerable. They're hurting, screwing up their family life, everything. So first thing when I meet the person, why you here? What you need? What's the issues? And when, at least for me, I try to perfect every little piece. So when I meet someone, I'm getting the sale, if you will. I want to know what's the pain, so that way I know up front how I could help them and when I could help them. So I find out all the issues, and then whenever I do a lesson with someone, I'm like, okay, we're gonna do this, but is there anything you want to cover? You have any questions? Usually the main points I try to hit right away, because I know as a trainer I want to do certain things. I want to make sure the dog. But the thing is, for me, it's the dog comes first. Obviously, I always think about how I could help the dog.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously,
Sure.
them. All right. So I always ask them, what let's work on the stuff that you need help with first. We gotta do this first sometimes, but I'll help you know what you need, and we'll address it. And every time they come, wait, how are things going? How's the issues going? And to a point that, is there any problems? No, everything's good. So I usually go point to them, how they're feeling, if their pain or their problems are getting better or they're solved.
Mm-hmm.
So can I just ask Felix, if somebody came to you and you were on Zoom, say, in a consult, and they said they didn't want you to, they just wanted to lead the whole conversation. They didn't want you to ask questions to them. They wanted to start out. How do you think you would handle that? Or have you, I was kind of thinking when Steve was talking that what happened with Steve happens sometimes later on in lessons that I've had with people, not necessarily the initial one, where they're balking at something that I've suggested, or they just don't like something I'm doing. I actually did have it on Zoom, where it was just like somebody fighting me about what I was advising and what to do to help their dog. So I think, Steve, that sounds a bit unusual to me. And what I was asking you, Felix, is how would you have responded to somebody who wanted to jump in and say, you're not in control of this, I am, and I want to talk about what I want to talk about. Don't.
Well, if they, number one, I take control of the situation, even though they may think they're in control. So I'm going to explain to them, listen, you want to solve this issue.
Mm-hmm.
I have to find out what's going on first. Okay. When it gets so bad that they're not on the same page as me, sometimes it has to end. I'm not the right person for them, which is fine.
Sure.
That happens. Hey, if you're here for a reason, you're here for help. I'm going to help you, but you got to allow me to help you. And I need to gather information. So if I'm I'll be honest, I've never been in a situation, or at some point during the training, we're not seeing eye to eye, then unfortunately, sometimes it does end. But the people that see eye to eye, or even they have questions or doubts, I'll explain to them why we're doing this. Again, I don't care if I have to tell them 20,000 times. I'll be honest with you. I don't care. As long as they're willing to try to understand and listen. Hey, I had people against certain things, and after explaining to them, they're like, oh man, thank you so much.
I'm guessing what you're really saying, Felix, is as long as they're willing to try.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Jeff?
Yeah, so I guess, it's two different scenarios. Three even, a telephone call, a Zoom, and walking through someone's door.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can navigate all three a little differently. A telephone conversation, especially if it's an initial call, I am doing a lot of listening, answering their questions. Sometimes their questions are, well, what exactly are you going to do?
Right.
I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? How long are you doing this? I'm like, 25 years. Well, how do you not know what you're going to do? because I don't know what your dog is going to present to me when I walk through your door. And remember, not most of my clients, I'm not doing puppy obedience. Usually there's some kind of behavioral problem, not always severe, but some kind of behavioral problem. And I may not, I may walk through a door and the dog tells me what they're thinking right there. And obviously I react accordingly. So going into a home is a little different because it's all about me and the dog before I even start talking to people. And they usually know that beforehand. I usually tell them, especially if it's a behavioral problem, do not have any expectations. We're probably going to jump around a lot through the course of our hour or two that we're together. The dog is going to dictate to me what that dog needs at that moment. And it's my job to interpret that and relay that information to you. And we'll work on that as the dog presents a behavior to us, right? So I usually set that up on a phone call before I even go into a home. With an initial call, it's usually a lot of talking, purging, like Felix said, some people are at an all-time frustration level. Their lives are negatively impacted. And you know what? If I got to sit there and listen for 10 minutes and it makes them feel a little better, I'm better off doing that, because when I do start presenting information to them, they're going to be a little more clear about receiving it. That's at least my opinion. When it comes to a Zoom, I usually, again, I set expectations beforehand. I tell them, look, have a list. We'll go down your list. So I don't want to miss anything. I want to make sure that I address all of your concerns. A lot of times they send me video before the Zoom. So I have a little bit of a visual of what the dog is doing.
Better idea of where they are.
Yeah. So I think setting expectations is a big part of it. And then there's times we hop on the Zoom regardless of all these expectations, and they may not outright say, I'm dictating this call. I'll get to my opinion of that in a minute. But
well, I'd like to hear that actually, because I think that goes back to that question I asked.
Yeah. So if you think about people in those situations, it's like if someone falls off their bike, what happened? They don't tell you what happened. The first thing they tell you, my thumb is killing me, my knee is scraped, my ankle's killed. They're rattling off the throbbing thumbs.
Right.
So I have to say, all right, well, slow down a minute. I want to make sure that we get to everything. Why don't you tell me your first concern and we'll address that. And then we'll go down the list. That's for a Zoom, because I'm not there,
Right.
So there are times now going into a home, we're doing this a long time, whether they say they want to guide it or not, you kind of know when you're walking into a type A home. When they open the door, I know I'm looking right at myself. So I know exactly how to navigate that. Right. And sometimes it's much like dogs in reality. Sometimes I have to take a little more subservient role to dance through that initial conflict. Right. And then we're friends and we're, sniffing butts and stuff. Right. If someone comes right out and says that, I would probably be very open to that and say, that's fine. But if this conversation goes in a direction that doesn't suit the benefit of your dog, I will interject and I'll have to change the course of our discussion. That's probably how I would say it on a Zoom. In person, it's a little different, especially, you guys, you know me personally, and my wife says it all the time. She's like, nobody has to even ask you what you're thinking or feeling because you're so expressionate. So I have to be careful of my mannerisms when I'm confronted with resistance.
Yeah.
And it happens. And usually it's, maybe I have to talk them out of a tool. Maybe I have to talk them into a tool. Maybe I have to tell them flat out, some people you say, look, in fact, I just had a session not too long. It was our 5th session, a lab puppy. Okay. The dog bored out of his mind. I've been telling this guy for months about my socialization protocol with Tractor Supply, Home Depot, the pet store, even walking the dog. And he always had an excuse why he couldn't do it. The last session, I was there for about 25 minutes. And I, because the first, we had to do some work in the house. And then we started talking about, well, tell me about your experience. And he told me he didn't do a damn thing. And I said, well, I said, we know each other well enough now. Okay. I'm leaving. I'm not charging you for today. you call me when your homework's done.
Mm.
I said, your dog is bored out of your mind. You keep coming up with excuses, and that's why you're dealing with the stuff in the home. He's 8 months old now. We talked about this 3 months ago. And now our window for socialization is closing, and you're going to be dealing with this potentially for the next 14 years. So I had to take that hard stand because, and I agree, you know, I'm like Felix, it really is all about the dog, right?
Right.
You know, so there's ways you can navigate that. If someone flat out said, you know, again, it depends on the context of it. I don't know how I would handle it in person. You know, and it depends on I'm not trained in human behavior, but when you do this long enough, you kind of know what you're dealing with from as far as what you can say and how you can say it. And sometimes I say the right thing and it's in your face and it gets the point across. Sometimes my timing is absolutely horrendous. and I'm saying it to the wrong person. You know, it happens, but
and I think that, you know, trainers we're very hard on ourselves with that because we're meeting so many different types of personalities in the situation, and you know that you want to help their dog and them. So, you know, and I think you know, that's really difficult because people are resistant. And sorry, I kind of lost where I was going with this, but I was thinking that Steve, that's, you know, the in your face, probably very commanding. I'm running this. Don't say anything. Listen to me first. That's, you know, I wanted to ask you, how did you deal with that?
Yeah,
and what
that's actually what I was going to ask.
What was the outcome of the work with this person?
Well, you know, I took it as a learning moment, right? Right. This lady was maybe teaching me something that I didn't recognize in my own approach. You know, so I kind of I thought to myself, wow, nobody ever came that way at me, you know, and I'm like, all right, you know, but let me hear her, you know, let me listen to how she feels, and that's how she felt. She wanted to do all the talking. And I'm like, okay, you know, you're the one who's paying for it. So, you know, that's, I didn't say that, but that's at the end of the day.
That's what it comes down to.
And if you want to listen to yourself talk and pay me for it, I'm okay with that, you know. But if you want me to help you somehow, then you got to let me do that at some point. But if you're not going to listen to me and just let me talk, then I'd rather not talk, right? I'm wasting my breath. So, right? I mean, because if I started to, apparently, she would have let me go, she wasn't going to listen because she had a different idea. So I'd be talking, she wouldn't be listening, and nothing would be happening. So I just kick back and let her explain herself. I mean, I got an email from her. That's what set up the Zoom. So I already kind of knew, you know, she already laid out what was going on, which is probably what made it easy for me to just jump when I got with her.
Right. You already had your groundwork already in place.
Yeah, had my thoughts, you know. I was all ready to try and give her potential solutions to the problems that she laid out for me, but she didn't, you know, she didn't want it to go that way. So I just kicked back and I let her do her thing, and she chewed up a lot of what would have been the normal amount of time I'd spend. So I had to spend extra time because she just wanted to vent, I guess. You know, I mean, that's what it really was about. You know, she was venting.
Yeah, I can understand why that would feel uncomfortable.
But I let it, you know, I learned something, you know, maybe that's what some of them have to do. This was unique for me. It was a unique thing. And it really brought, I thought, I wonder how many people deal with this, or how do we all have our style, you know, in terms of teaching. And so, you know, I just wonder if anybody else kind of got beat down before they got a chance to talk. You know, I thought, is this just me, you know?
Did you wind up working with her, Steve?
Well, I only did the one session. You know, I'm pretty sure that if my advice did her zero, you know, then she probably would have got back to me. I feel she's the kind of person that would have called me back.
Right, she would have, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I feel like I helped her, you know, in the end. It had to be her way, but okay, you know, maybe other folks need to kind of be counseled in that way. It's like, let them go, let them, if they need to do that, then that's fine. Go. And, I'll follow up behind you, and hopefully you will pay attention to what I have to say, not just pay attention to what you had to say. And, you don't really know that. You just do what you do, which is counsel them in the best way you know how, and try to solve their problems in the best way you know how, and ask them to get back to you if they have issues, questions, or problems in the future. And that's how it went. So, the lady paid for the session. She paid fairly and all that. And so I guess, I felt it was I looked at it as a learning situation for myself, rather than, I could have maybe had a different attitude about it.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I could have maybe just like, chop,
And maybe next time you would say something to somebody like that. Like, look, it's, I'm, sensing that you're feeling this way, but I want to let you know that, some kind of way to not completely negate her feelings, but to say you are, she hired you, your time is valuable too. And oops, gotta go. And I'm just saying things, Steve, that I wish I had done a million times, with people. When you're
for me, I usually have everyone vent, everyone tell me all the issues, get everything out the first consultation. Tell me what the problem, what you're having, what's going on, everything, vent out, and we just talk. No training, no anything. I don't do anything with the dog anymore because sometimes I've fixed the issue and they don't come back. So, but I just let them talk. What, and then we get everything out, and then the first lesson, let's get to work.
And that's in person. You talk.
Yeah.
The first one.
They come to me.
They come
It's
to you.
free. We'll talk. Go over the programs, everything. We do all the talking. Then I check out the dog, and then first lesson we get to work, and we start working right away. And that's the way I handle it. Or sometimes if they call me, we'll talk a little bit on the phone, and then we'll meet, and then we'll talk some more if they need. It's very. Sometimes they'll tell me about a new situation, and we'll spend like 20 minutes in the session. But it's not often.
Yeah, I think when Felix was talking, it made me realize too is, again, going back to setting expectations, and we may have even talked about something similar to this last year.
Yes.
About goals and expectations for clients. If I don't know, maybe.
And if they weren't doing the work, I think is what it was. Yeah.
So
yes,
I think,
how we feel.
Setting expectations beforehand is helpful, and a lot of times, I would say most of the time now, when we are talking and we ultimately set up an appointment, whether it's a Zoom or an in-person session, I usually have like some video or something on my YouTube channel to send to them to watch beforehand. And the purpose of me doing that, I tell them this will limit and minimize our talk time so we could focus more on actual work. So again, that probably goes back to more of setting expectations, I guess, I would agree. If someone wants to hop on a Zoom and pay me to sit there and talk, they don't know if I have boxers on or sweatpants. So yeah, I'm home, I'm chilling. Go ahead, blab away. But I think I do have a question for Steve, because Steve's doing this a lot longer than me. But I'm closer to the end of my career than the beginning, and I feel, and maybe this is more of a self-awareness thing, but I'm probably a little less flexible at this point in my life than I was early on in my career too. I mean, and it's not to say that I wouldn't jump through hoops of fire for a dog. You guys know I would, but I do have certain limitations or boundaries that I have a hard time crossing now at this stage in my career, because time is important to me. It's not just about money anymore. Yep. You know what I mean? Time is more valuable to me than it was 20 years ago. 20 years ago, getting into that second hour of training was probably more important to me, so I could whack them for another hour. I'm just being honest. Like, now I want to optimize my time. I want to optimize their time, and I want to affect the fastest, most fair and effective change in their lives to help their dogs. Do you feel, Steve, that flexibility has shifted throughout your career as far as dealing with clients?
Well, if anything, um, I'm more, I'm old now, Jeff. So it's like this. It's like, um, as long as I'm here, I got all the time in the world. That's how I feel about it. It's like, because you know what, I'm really not. I don't bang out that many. I really limit my caseload like tremendously. I listen to the story, or I'll get an email if I don't like what I'm reading or what I hear. I instantly refer that case out.
Oh,
Hmm.
okay.
I don't
Yeah.
even. One of my old mentors recently got chewed by a 3-year-old Rottweiler. He had him for 3 years.
Wow.
He opened up the run door, and you know what a degloving wound is? Have you heard that term? Degloving
I
wound?
can guess.
So this dog took him high up on the elbow and tore his skin down to his wrist.
Ooh.
So he
Mm.
now, some hospitalization, they're going to have to take skin grafts from the leg. He's older
Ugh.
than I am.
Wow.
And, he's in pretty tough shape because he's kind of mucking around with the stuff that we always used to muck around with that I don't muck around with anymore. I'm like, look, I charge a flat rate for my stuff, and I'm going to get the same rate if I'm training a 14-week-old golden retriever puppy, or you call me up with a 10-month-old male Malinois that's like spinning all over the damn place. It's like, it's the same dough. And I don't have the same amount of physical energy or strength or desire. I don't carry a bite arm in my trunk and stuff, I don't got a suit or, scratch
Yeah.
pants. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not doing any more police dog stuff. I did it. I'm happy I did it. It was great. I loved it. But, I sort of have there's some limitations now. I set for myself. I mean, I know people old like this. My guy, he's older than I am, and he's still doing that stuff, and he got himself pretty well hurt. So he's done. He's really, he did not that it's in his mind, but he's done now.
Wow.
He's done. He's not speaking like he's done. It's like,
Right.
to him, it's like it's a little bump in the road, but it's not.
Mhm.
It's a significant injury. I saw pictures. It's like horrible. So
Wow.
I'm like, I'm glad I'm doing what I'm doing, and if it's a
Yeah.
Zoom session, I can do a couple of Zooms in a day. I could probably do Zooms all day if I had that desire, but I don't. So I'll set up a session one a day, sometimes two, sometimes a Zoom session and a house call. And I muck around with that a little bit because I don't have to make $1 zillion. I didn't get into this business to make all kinds of money. I did it for the work. It's a kind of a labor of love, I mean, you do this because this is what you do.
Mhm.
And this is what I tell people all the time. I'm like, look, they start talking to me about money and do you do packages and this? And I'm like, there's no packages. Sorry. There's no package. This is what I charge per session. That's it. If all goes well, I'm coming to your house once. That's how I feel about it. I'm going to clean this up. I'm going to give you what you really should probably be thinking about doing. And if you need me to come back, I'm happy to do so. But let's change some human behavior so that we can get the dog squared away. That's basically, because when I leave, if I leave no skills and knowledge behind, it was a waste of my time and your money. So that's my goal. I'm going out. I'm meaning to get it done in one session if I can. If I can't, okay. Some people need more help. Some dogs need a little more consistency from a professional. I'm happy to give them that, but that's
Mhm.
not. I have a set goal myself, and maybe that's what got me in trouble with this lady. I was going straight at it, and she was like, "Slow down there, Charlie. Slow down. You're not driving this. I know." And the way she put it to me, I know you're used to driving these meetings, but
Yeah.
not today. If you don't mind.
Mhm.
She wasn't rude, but she was firm.
But I'm wondering, we're talking about it from the trainer's perspective. I'm wondering from the client's perspective, has things changed? Are clients a little bit more as that woman is, like, no, you're the dog trainer. I'm the person who's hiring you. You're going to listen to me. Have you guys found that, or is that no? Okay.
Not me.
Me neither. Most people, Felix hit the nail on the head.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they picked up the phone, there's a certain level of, for lack of a better word, surrender.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Hey, we tried this our way, but we need a little help. Or, a lot of times I had a dog when I was a kid. This is the first time I have a dog as an adult. It's not the same as what I remember.
Right.
And I joke around. I'm like, well, that's because your parents were taking care of the dog.
Right. Yeah. That's because you actually are doing it this time. Yeah.
Actually, it could be the same people too. They had dog when they're younger, not necessarily a kid, and now they're older. They're like, this. I ain't have this much trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find most people are reasonable and willing to take direction. The only resistance sometimes is if they have experienced some point in their lives with other trainers that might be inconsistent with how we do things. There might be a little resistance, but usually it's just curiosity more than it is, oh, I'm not doing this because my trainer 30 years ago taught me this way.
Right.
Sometimes you get that, and it's like, well, you know what? That may have worked on that dog, but it's not working on this dog, right? So if we put the focus on the dog, which I always try to do in situations of conflict, if I say, well, just because you don't like it, what I'm saying now, it's people and personal, right? But if I say, look, yeah, it probably did work on that dog, and you probably had a lot of success, but it's not working on this dog, maybe we could try this. Those are usually ways I navigate those situations. But most people are willing if they reached out for help.
Then for some reason in my career, I would get clients where if it's a couple, one of the, say the man was okay with what I was doing and really working it and wanting, and then the other partner was anxious about it and negative, and in my, I usually did 3 to 6 sessions. Having to deal with that all the time was, for me personally was rough, and trying to navigate both of them. And what do I say? And who do I align with? And, and that was probably my personality, because maybe somebody who would have come in and said, boom, this is what you do. And, and here I am, really trying to be sensitive and help this dog, which I see, and, get little successes and praise them. And then one of the couple would be negative. It was, that was, ooh, I know we're, and that's kind of like who's running in a way that is the same topic, I think, is like who's running it, who's in control,
But
So
you can't help.
my go-to there, Bonnie, and it has never failed me, and maybe I mentioned this, but that is so common. That is not unique to you. And when that happens, I always tell people, and this is where every once in a blue moon, my sarcasm is poorly timed, right? But I usually hit a home run on it when I see them going at it. And, one will look to me and I'll be like, well, you really need a different type of professional for what's going on here. Right? And it usually offers a moment of levity most often. And we laugh about it, right? And then I say, it's clear, person A, you're up here. Person B, you're down here. We need this to happen. We don't need this to happen. We don't need you to reverse roles, because then we're telling them to be someone they're not.
Yeah.
We're telling them that they need to compromise a little bit, like, Jane needs to be a little less assertive. Bob has to stop being so loving at the wrong time. Like, you know what I mean? So, and that's usually the context in which I throw that joke at them. But it's true. And it's, it's very common. So I don't think it's unique to you, Bonnie. I think we're all part marriage counselors at some point.
Yeah.
Definitely. But it's in the end, if they want to help their dog, right, and you suggest something, I mean, I find myself oftentimes asking, I'll tell them something, and then I'll ask, does this make sense to you? Because I want to know. Because if in their head, they don't like what I'm saying, but they're not speaking, then I'm not helping them, right? I need to know. So if I lay some kind of a plan out, I ask, does this make sense to you? Because if one of them's going to say no, I think I need to like flip this dog on his back and hold him down, then I'm going to talk to him. Then we're going to go there. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how to offset defense in a dog. you know, and let's talk about how that might not work so well for you, or if it does work for you, how that might not work so well for your partner because maybe they can't do that.
Right.
Mhm.
And then where does that leave the dog with this kind of confusion, right? So I usually try to hit them up with, does that make sense to you? And then when they tell me what they're really thinking, I can then take it to the next. Well,
Yeah.
let me tell you. Okay, I hear you, and let me tell you why I'm thinking maybe that's not the way to go.
Mhm.
And I'll give them these. But if I don't leave them with something that they can do together as a family, or however many people are involved,
So
then
true.
I'm not going to be that successful.
Right.
So when trying to be successful, I make sure I keep asking them. It's like the dental hygienist who keeps asking me before she hurts me, does that hurt? And I'm like, not yet.
And I think that might be a good place to stop for today. And I think that the bottom line is with all of this that yeah, you guys can deal with the people, but when it really comes down to it, is what's best for the dog. So with that, I want to thank you all for being here, trainers. I want to thank everybody for watching today. And don't forget to like us on Facebook and like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we will see you next time. Thanks a lot, folks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.